Welcome to Breaking Biscuits, the Experience. Today, Mark, we're going to continue our discussion on emotional maturity, so stay tuned. Well, Mark, welcome back. We've been on this topic for a few weeks. We missed last week. My fault. Had to have a little work done in the hospital, and we weren't quite able to do last week's podcast.
I really wanted to get you the hospital gown at the hospital. It didn't work.
Yeah, it'd be a good way to lose a lot of followers, for sure. So everything's good, but we're back together today, and we were talking last time about emotional maturity, and it was really not necessarily about men, but we kind of focused in on men somewhat, and just want to pick that back up today and really just start out, Mark, I guess, just asking you, when you we've all had our own experience of growing up in a household and being taught or learning certain things, but I just want to ask, like, first and foremost, like, how do you think these patterns are formed when you think about the family culture and how we grew up?
Oh yeah, when we coach people, I always go by this rule, and it may not be clinical or whatever, but I always just say it either happened to you or it was modeled to you. And that's it's just the way it is. You repeat what you don't address, and what you don't heal gets transferred onto your children. So it sounds simple, but it's really not. I met with one of our really good friends, sons, brothers last night for a long time, and we do have a men's group out here in Oklahoma of people that we coach, and we kind of come to the conclusion that we need to help each other as men figure out how to love our wives, because it hasn't been modeled to us in the right way, and we don't want to do it that way. So what do we do?
Yeah.
And so we had a really long discussion for a couple of hours about maybe we should just all share our experiences and the things that worked and the things that didn't and things we learned. And I'm very hopeful. But at the base question of what you asked me is that the sons are going to love their wives exactly the way the father loved their mom, as the default setting.
Right. And to drill into that could mean like what they observed, right? Because we're not, as sons, we're not like 12-year-old or 10-year-old. We're not thinking about how dad treats mom. We're just watching it, absorbing it, and but it is teaching us. Observation is teaching us. And some examples, I think, are like how would emotions be expressed in a conflict?
Huge.
That's a big one, right?
That is. And how you handle disagreements, and yeah.
And another good one is just I like this one. What does love look like? What is it? I mean, that's a deep question. Like, what does love really look like? Like, if you had to define what love looked like in the aspect of how a husband treats his wife, I mean, we can quote the Bible. No, we know it's as Christ loved the church, but in a practical term, how would you put words around that?
I heard something years ago, never left me. And it basically says, love is your benefit at my expense. So whatever makes you peace, if I do the dishes because it's conflicting with my wife's emotions because she can't handle it, if I do that and get that out of the way, that's love. Because it's my sacrifice for your benefit. It cost me a whole lot.
I assume without no expectations of return.
No. And that just never really left me. Love is your benefit at my expense. And let's just be honest, if you bring it back to the real love of Jesus, it's our benefit at his expense.
Yeah.
And so if you filter that through as a man, as a father, as a husband, sometimes your wife is the temperature of your home.
That's
but
for
the
sure.
husband is the thermostat, and he can change it. And sometimes you have to take inventory and go, what can I do to lower this temperature, make it comfortable? And it could be as something, Toby's so silly, but rake the leaves, take out the trash, do the dish. Like, it could be so silly as that.
Yeah.
But it means a lot to them because it's on their head and it's in their mind and it's on their plate, and they just get overwhelmed with it. But so what it's really saying is, I love you enough to, I want you to be at peace, and I'll sacrifice this moment. But I don't think you and we weren't we didn't see that. It probably happened, but we weren't. Our fathers never set us down and said, son, when your wife gets overwhelmed, you should do this. Like, we weren't trained that way.
No. Our generation, the fathers didn't. They didn't talk. They didn't talk about this stuff.
No.
Hey, you know what came to mind when you were talking? We were having a discussion the other day, just you and I, and just about everything and nothing. And you said something that kind of stuck with me, and I think it fits with what we're talking about. You were talking about a situation where, one spouse is kind of giving advice or something to another, but what the need was is just support. So sometimes it's not doing something, but it's supporting something, like supporting her. In this case, the way we're talking about it, like what does that look like to you when you hear like men should be supportive of their wives? Like how would you describe that?
For me, from the coaching that I receive on a weekly basis, and what our coach tells us is, I don't need your agreement, but I need your support. I need to know you understand how I feel. It is so simple, but it's so complicated. Because honestly, if I'm just being honest, every time my wife gets overwhelmed, I feel like I'm overwhelmed at the same time. And so I have to choose that helping her in her overwhelmness is more important than mine. And it almost seems simultaneously. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that happens for you, but we get overwhelmed. We're men. We're overwhelmed. Yeah. We're overloaded. We're overcommitted. We're overpromised. We're spread thin. But then when you come and engage with your wife and she's like a DEFCON 5, what are you gonna do? Are you going to throw your stuff out there in the mix? That would be a disaster. So that's what love does. Love says, your benefit at my expense. And we were talking to our friend last night for hours, and we have a little men's group out here, and I've said, we need a men's group, a friends men's group that we can share all our stuff with and process it, and not make it so heavy on our wives. And that's what the subject is getting away from immaturity, being mature about your loved one.
Right. No, I think that's important, because what you're describing is both individuals. My wife is like a researcher, so she'll have more of a clinical view of these things, and she always tells me it's like your nervous system is going off, so to speak. So your nervous system is saying, I'm overwhelmed. So you have a reaction. That's the nervous system saying, I don't like this place I'm in. Well, as men, as we see that, then it very well can trigger our nervous system. Says, well, what's wrong with her? I came home in a good mood, and she's overwhelmed and, upset, and every little thing is wrong, and then that's upsetting me. My nervous system is going off as well. So in the moment, it's not comfortable. It takes great discipline to say, I'm going to choose to put myself in her shoes and love her and try to understand what she's going through. And I'm going to set my emotions to the side and focus on her, because that's what I need to do. And hopefully that's reciprocated, when the shoe's on the other foot. But I like what you said, because there's times where that can build up, and you feel frustrated, and you feel like you're not being heard or whatever. And just to be able to bounce that off a friend and say, man, my marriage is fine. I'm just really frustrated about this little thing that keeps happening, and help me walk through this, talk me through it. And I think that's kind of the context you're speaking in. Does that sound
100%? Because that's what you've been to me. We call it our 911 friend. It's not an emergency. It's just, man, I just need to talk. And I know it's just me, and I already know the answer. I just want someone to say, yeah, I feel you. I felt the same way, and here's how I felt it. And it kind of makes you feel not so disconnected in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I will say this. I think it's a good point. When God created Adam, it said he formed him. But when God created Eve, it said he made her. And these are two complete different formations. And in Genesis, it says when he formed man, the word form means to mold, to squeeze, to put pressure in. So the man is made in pressure. And so we don't want to get completely out from under the pressure, because it makes us who we are. It defines who we are, really. What a man does under pressure defines who he is. Not in peace, but in pressure. But then the woman was made, and she wasn't made under pressure. She was made by, that word means to speak, to declare, to say, to build up with words. So the woman is built up through what the man tells her, what she means to him. That builds, that's how she was made, but the man's built under pressure. So if the man takes his pressure, tries to dump it on his wife, she ain't built for that. And that can create a problem.
Yeah, which leads me to the next question I was going to ask you. is what does a power move look like in a relationship. So, I mean, to me, what you're describing is a power move, which is the opposite of love. But like, how do men do? Like in that moment, we learned from our parents what power looks like, or what a power move in a relationship looks like.
Mm.
And do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, what's your experience of that? It's like, you mean for the man to just overpower? Like, give me an example.
Yeah, like a power move would be, like, let's just go back to the example of the woman is frustrated, she's just having a rough day, and we're saying the man should come in with love and put his own feelings aside and find out what's going on with her. A power move would be kind of pulling rank, so to speak, in the home as the man. You know, the testosterone move, saying, "Hey, what's wrong with like what's wrong? Like if you're in a fight, I'm gonna dominate. I'm gonna dominate you with words, and God forbid with people that are abused. It's physical domination. But let's just talk about how we communicate. So come in with dominating power moves with words like, what's wrong with you? You don't have nothing to be frustrated. You got a great life. Look what you can see, like where that could go really quick. Look what I've provided. I worked all day, and
you stayed home all day, or whatever.
Yeah, or my job's more important, or whatever it is, or I do just as much as you do, and I'm not frustrated. You could go 1,000 different directions.
I see
what you're saying. That's what a lot of men have learned as boys, is they saw dads do that. So when the woman was in need, instead of the need being met, the power move was done. And because, generally speaking, we're more physical, stronger, louder, not always the case, but most of the time, then it's easy for that to be our go-to moment.
Mm-hmm. And it's, wow. It was modeled to us, but it's actually just saying my needs are more important than yours.
Yeah.
And I'm just as important as you, and I give more than you, and I don't get nothing. But men are dumb, Toby. Men are just dumb. They don't realize if they love this woman, they'll get everything they ever dreamed of.
Right.
And love them from not a manipulation and not wanting nothing in return, just genuinely want to keep her soft, relieve the pressure. I can take it. Because I have men friends of mine that we can talk about it and work it through. I don't need to bring it to the table. And they can help me, my men friends can help me reframe it in a way that's healthy for our conversation, but men are just dumb.
But Mark, what happens if the man feels disrespected by the wife? Because most men key on respect, and when they feel disrespected, then it goes off the rails really quick.
I think that would come from we see it a lot. There's a lot of women who have a lot of unresolved hurt, and a hard thing to do is not take it personal when you're disrespected, because chances are they're disrespecting their father when they were raised. They're disrespecting other relationships they had along the way to you, but you're the blunt of it, so you're the last one on the chain. And it takes a special man to do that.
Yeah.
Because the natural inclination goes back to what you just said. The man, like, does the gorilla thing and shuts it all down,
Right.
you know. But if I love someone, I'd want to find out where that came from. Like, my wife has issues, believe it or not, and I do too. Wow, that's a shocker. But we have communication gaps sometimes, and when she tells me things, I always have to take inventory. There's sometimes Toby would take inventory. I'm like, yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't do nothing wrong.
Right.
But I hear you and I love you, and there's no point in getting weird about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to love her through it. And young men can't do this. That's our problem. Young men can't do it, and people wind up having like 2 to 3 divorces before they ever get it together. And it's not fair to them. We should have some older men guiding and leading and helping men love their wives.
Yeah.
I wish, and that's what we're doing here today. We're 2 old guys with a computer. We have no reason to be here other than help people.
Right.
We're here, down for it. We do breaking biscuits. We spend our life to help people, not, give them all the tools possible to succeed.
Yeah.
That we didn't have. So we become to them what we needed. That's why we're sitting here right now.
Yeah.
And we got a million other things to do, but we're here.
True. Yeah, Mark, I had somebody tell me one time, like in those moments you feel disrespected, like you say, especially if it doesn't, you take inventory and you say, no, I didn't do anything. It's to change that to being inquisitive, like asking questions, trying to find out where it's coming from. This is a news flash. A lot of times the disrespect that you're getting really has nothing to do with you.
That's the
It's
point.
there's something else going on, but because we take it personal, then we gorilla up, like you said, and then nothing good comes out of that. Obviously.
No. We are so easy to manage, but we're so complicated to understand.
Yeah.
The problem is, I was talking to our friend last night till real late in the morning, like midnight, and we have men's groups out here, and so if men don't feel like they're heard, they just shut down. And they just do whatever. And so the wife never feels connected. And that's when the man will say, the woman will say, well, what do you think? And he'll go, he literally gets to the point he don't even say words. He just says, I don't know. And he's just so disconnected because he doesn't have a friend in the world. I'm sorry. I love golf buddies and all that, but they don't know what's really going on in your life. And you can go out to dinner with them and eat at the pub, but they don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's really going on. And that's my point of this whole podcast is we've got to find our people.
Yeah.
To just say, hey, like, I'm honestly, without you in my life, I can't even imagine where I would be.
Yeah.
And even though I already know what you're going to say, and I know what I need to hear, but I need to hear it from you.
Yeah.
And lots of times I get different angles of what I wasn't expecting. And we just need each other. And we're so terrified because of our shame to even tell anybody. So we'd rather go to pro golf and act like we had a brotherhood. And we did.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. That's great.
So Mark, in that same lane that we were discussing, I want to ask you a question because men have Like, we want to be valued just like women do.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're out there thinking you don't need to feel valuable, we all know that's not the truth. We love feeling useful and valuable. But if we're not getting that through the relationship, I think we have a tendency to maybe overwork ourselves in some capacity somewhere. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that concept of overworking to feel valuable.
Well, I think it comes from maybe not feeling enough, so we overcompensate to make sure that we're more than enough by what we provide, which is kind of a weird situation, because you can provide a great lifestyle for your wife, but you still haven't solved her desire for intimacy and connection. You know what I mean?
Nor your own desire.
Yeah, you're still disconnected, and you're not, I wouldn't say performing, but you're just doing what you're created to do, and it's God's blessing it, and it's great. But I want to ask you this question, because I just thought of it. I think it's important. What would you say to the woman out there, the wife? How would she make this man feel valuable, add value to his life, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I've actually thought about this question before. You've never asked me this question, but I've asked myself this question a lot as I've gotten older. And this is going to sound really cheesy, but this is my opinion. And I've actually watched wives do this to men, their husbands, in public, and I've watched the reaction of the man, which has been super positive. But it's to praise your man, to tell him what he's good at, to tell him he's valuable, because that's all he wants. He just wants to know that he's valuable to her, and that she sees the value he brings to the relationship. You know, it could be, I don't know why I always use mowing the yard, but it could be something as simple as, man, that yard looks great, and you just do an amazing job when you mow the yard. I can't believe how beautiful the yard is. And we've talked about how important that is when a father tells a son that. But when you're in a husband-wife relationship, it's pretty critical, in my opinion, when a wife does that to a husband. And it's obviously sincere and truthful. You're not doing it, just as lip service, but you truly mean it. But there's a couple that I know that comes to my mind as I'm talking about this, and it's somebody that's been married for about 20 years, and his wife brags on him all the time about how great he is at his job, about how great of a father he is, and they have great communication and a great relationship. So the problem is, though, when there's hurt, Mark, in the relationship, the women, they're carrying hurt around. They don't want to do that, nor do they feel like doing that. And then it comes into, well, when they earn it, I'll let them know, which is kind of code for when I get over the hurt, then I might decide to show, my appreciation for what they do. So, it always kind of comes back down to the same thing, is we carry these wounds around with us, and the wounds that we carry affect how we speak to each other. and how we interact with each other, and it creates the barriers that of intimacy and transparency, and the man's shutting down and the woman's keeping all her thoughts to herself as well, and it just becomes a stale relationship. But if you could remove the hurt and the pain, then I think the woman, I think she's fine with praising her man. What wife wouldn't want a man that she's proud of?
But she can make him. My counselor tells me the mother makes the man.
Yeah.
And she can mold the man into something that he can't even see for himself. And she does that through appreciation and affection.
Yeah.
And if a woman would learn that, her man would jump through a wall and leap over a troop.
Yeah, he would.
And that's but see, like we were talking earlier about how men have to put their needs aside sometimes. And sometimes the wife has to put that aside and say, I believe in you. There is nothing more powerful than a wife that believes in her husband.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just nothing. Because I've been on both sides of the fence, and I completely, I understand what you're saying. And what's funny is the man don't even know what he needs, because he's just living life and going to work and coming, like he has no idea what's happening. But he can literally. I was talking to a guy last night, and it said, I brought up this scripture. It says that the believing wife can sanctify her husband and bring him into the fold by just her lifestyle. In other words, and so what? Now I'm seeing what it is. By her loving him, appreciating him, believing in him, she can woo him right into the kingdom, and he don't even know what's going on.
Because it's the character of Jesus.
It is. It sounds hard, Toby, but it's not. But
Mark, what's hard is setting our emotions aside.
What we do it in my home is we say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, when we're wrong, when we say something wrong or think something wrong or something gets misplaced, you know. But we always say thank you. We say thank you for doing this, and thank you for doing that, and thank you. Because that little bitty fox thing goes a really long way. I tell my wife, thank you for everything. Thank you for taking Max to school. Thank you for thinking of me today. Thank you that. And then, but also say, I'm sorry for. And this is breaking biscuits, but I've met with couples, Toby, that the husbands never said, please forgive me. And they've been married like 5 years. I'm like, holy cow, this ain't gonna go well.
No, I can't.
And so we need to adapt these little bitty things into our everyday life.
Yeah.
Really, like if my wife wakes up and makes breakfast, you know what I say? Thank you for making breakfast.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
No one does it. It wasn't modeled to me. I had to learn it.
Yeah.
I had to, but I knew it meant something to her, because it meant something to me when she said, thank you for cleaning up the yard. Or we just don't absorb what we do for each other. We acknowledge it. And when you acknowledge it, you're putting a stamp on appreciation. I appreciate it. And affection. I believe in you.
That's good, Mark. That's really good.
It's so simple, but that's what we teach all our people to do.
It's a starting point, right?
I teach every person that I coach this one thing. when people tell you a compliment, right? What I want you to do is say, thank you, I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It's the most humbling thing. But what I've learned is, like, if you gave me a compliment and I say, thank you, I appreciate it, it means a lot to me. What I've done by your compliment is I've bypassed my own shame about myself.
Mhm.
Like, I've accepted what you see in me.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to chisel away at what I think about myself.
Yeah.
But I've also given you the gift of blessing someone else with your words.
Yeah.
But you know what we do when you're in shame? It was nothing. It was not a big deal.
Yeah.
I mow the yard for nothing. That don't matter.
So we minimize our own existence.
That's shame. That is shame talking, and I don't let people do that.
Yeah, that's good.
I force them to say, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
That's good.
So what I'm like, allowing someone's view of me to bypass how I see my own self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of married life. So what if we take that into married life and say, I think you're the most amazing human in the world, and the wife's like says, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And you're just washing shame away from each other by your own words. I know I'm weird, but it works.
No, it's really good stuff.
And it's embarrassing. At first, it's embarrassing because we're not used to it.
Right.
We're not used to people at the grocery store say, "Man, that's a really nice car you have." And like, nah, well, you know. Or you could say, "Thank you, I appreciate it. It means a lot to me." And blah 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 to you, you know. It's not hard. You have to be intentional, and you have to do all the little bitty things.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Yeah.
We don't let the couples that we coach not tell each other, I'm sorry when they mess up. We don't let them like skip that point. And we don't let them not appreciate each other when something good happens.
Yeah.
That's
good stuff. It's powerful and simple.
If people would practice it, Toby, it would.
Well, there's the exercise
Repeat
for
after
the
me. Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. How you feel. What you just said means a lot.
Well, let's just give our audience a challenge to do that for 1 week.
Yeah. When someone compliments you, I don't care if you're in line at auto, whatever. Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. So there's
you're bypassing, you're inputting someone else's opinion of you next to yours, and it's like, I don't see myself that way, so something's got to give.
Right. That's good stuff.
Good stuff, man.
Well, Mark, unfortunately, we're out of time this week. Super fast podcast, at least on our end, it felt fast. But I just want to leave everybody with the challenge of what you just shared is try that for a week. And next week we'll bring it up and ask you to comment on it. But just sincerely try it. It starts with the little things. And I'll commit to do it, to try it more myself this week. And we can pick up there next week. So any closing thoughts, Mark?
Happy wife, happy life. That's all I know.
Absolutely.
And I tell if my wife does anything, I tell her thank you.
Yeah.
because I never heard that, and I don't want to live in a world that I'm expected to do something. I want to live in a world that I'm appreciated for what I did.
Yeah, there you go.
But you can set the pace for it, man. The men can set the pace.
Yeah, good point. All right. Well, we want to thank all our listeners, and please like our channel and comment on our podcast. And we desperately want to hear from you. This is for you, and we hear from you. It encourages us to continue to do this, and we know you're listening. We can see the analytics, so we know you're out there. But let us know.
Yeah.
And we love you. And until next time, this is Breaking Biscuits, the Experience. We'll see you next week.